Do you love contemporary fine art photography and are familiar with names like Diane Arbus, Jeff Wall, Mary Ellen Mark, and Cindy Sherman? Then you should stay and check out a real gem for an artist and get inspired by her world and the way she uses the camera. This is Leap Art, that's here to inspire artists as well as collectors, and maybe even turn a quote, "I could do that," to a "wow, I dared to try." I have had the honor to work with a couple of great Ukrainian artists the last year at our curated platform Leap Gallery, so I wanted to present our latest collaboration. The Ukrainian artist Yulia Shybirkina explores personal identity, mostly narrated through a series of experimental self-portraits. She uses poetry in combination with her art, and then it becomes a kind of interesting juxtaposition to her images. The texts are not descriptions of the artworks as such, but rather thoughts about a particular subject that the image is interpreting. Like a sort of a diary, sometimes it's scribbles, and sometimes, like I said, it's a poem. Yulia Shybirkina is living outside Odessa at the moment together with her husband. This means she's living in the midst of a war. But she just keeps creating and doing her thing. And this is so amazing to see. She has a Bachelor of Art from the Faculty of Art at the Odessa Academy of Architecture and Construction. So now, let me bring up the curation that Leap Art did with her just to show you some of her latest works. So here we have the works of Yulia Shybirkina and our latest curation named Echoes of Self. As you can see, she uses black and white photography, and this is something she only works with, so she never uses color in her photography at all. Her style is quite punk, goth, but it has this beautiful flair of being timeless because of the clothing she uses for her props that are sometimes old-fashioned but sometimes very contemporary. This creates a really interesting balance and contrast that makes these pieces really something that you can't say when they are taken, if it's, historical images or if it's contemporary. But at the same time, she has this flair of, fanzine in her images. So let's pick a couple of favorites that we have and look closer at them. This is a self-portrait called Space Child, and this is taken in March 2024 in Odessa, so it's quite late, and she has added a long text to it. It is actually like a shorter essay belonging to this piece, and I can read the beginning of it and you can hear how beautiful she writes and what kind of texts and poets you can expect from her. Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. This is a self-portrait that, it speaks to me so much, especially when you have a bit of a background story. It's almost like she has stitches in her forehead. The eyes are unclear. This is very ethereal. At the same time, it could represent a crisis or some sort of transformation. I really love this piece a lot. And then we have a perfect example of this timelessness that she has in her photography with the clothing. She uses really big skirts. It could almost be 19th century clothing, even though she uses a technique that is really contemporary, how she freely experiments with lenses allowing long times to go, which creates this sort of fuzzy moving effects that is really beautiful. And then we have a much more contemporary one. It could be a selfie from whatever occasion, and you can see clearly with a zipper and with a denim shirt, that this is contemporary. And I love how she has lifted the fabric so that you can really see every detail of it. And this is kind of typically with a lot of Yulia's photography, that, you know, her love for fabric and dressing and so on, it really comes through in the different ways she uses clothing in her art pieces. And then we have the head again. You can't really see who this is. This is a person that is almost wiped out. You can't see clearly the face of her, just her eyes, really. So this piece is called I Wait for the Dawn, and as usual she has written a poem for this, and it's not that long, so I can read it to you. I would spend days picking flowers in bouquets. I would have endured indifferent stupidity of others, and everyone would say, poor crazy, I have built my world, and while I was alive, he would be in agreement with the rest of the world. And let's finish off with animation here. This animation is called Poetic Ceremony. I really love this animation for many reasons. First of all, how she has made the composition into abstracting her face, and then you can see glimpses of her full face in between. This gives me association to the 1920 Futurist movement, not least with the poet Mayakovsky, who also wrote a poem about Odessa, close to where Yulia is staying today. I hope you got a lot out of this little presentation of Yulia Shybirkina, and that was all for us today. And thank you for watching and listening, and please give us a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Bye bye!